Namaste. I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Alberta RCMP are investigating a sudden death in the Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, located about 360 kilometers northwest of Edmonton. On Sunday morning, Valley View RCMP were called to the First Nation after police found a deceased person in the community. The RCMP Serious Crimes Branch has taken over the investigation as a homicide. RCMP believe it was an isolated incident, but say there will be a heavy police presence for a number of days in the First Nation. RCMP are asking the public to avoid the area and are asking people to not post anything to social media to ensure police and public safety. Anyone with information about the incident is asked to contact Valley View RCMP at 780-524-3345. Saskatchewan RCMP are asking the public's help in finding two men allegedly involved in a weekend shooting in Waterhen Lake First Nation, located about 310 kilometers northwest of Prince Albert. On Sunday at around 2 a.m., RCMP say there was an altercation between a group of people when a gun was fired and one man was injured. The man was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. RCMP say they are now looking for 27-year-old Christopher Ernest from Waterhen Lake First Nation and 23-year-old Brandon McCollum from Canoe Lake Cree Nation. Both are facing multiple weapons charges. If you see Ernest or McCollum, do not approach them. Instead, call RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. Meanwhile, Manitoba RCMP continues to investigate a double homicide in a lakeside cottage community located about 115 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. Two people were found shot to death in Victoria Beach on Hampton Road, and RCMP is still searching for the suspect. CTV's Jeff Keel has the latest.
Yellow tape blocks off this driveway in cottage country as Mounties investigate a double homicide and search for a suspect who took off from the scene.
We believe the homicide is a result of the use of a firearm.
Around 2 a.m. Friday, RCMP received a call about a shooting on Hampton Road in Victoria Beach. When officers arrived, they found two bodies, a 29-year-old man from Winnipeg and a 41-year-old woman from Victoria Beach. Mounties say they were killed in or near a secondary cottage on the property.
Our forensic identification section is going to have to go through this area extensively. It is quite a large area to cover, so there's going to be a substantial amount of work.
Police believe a suspect fled the area driving a white truck south on Highway 59. Mounties say the victims were known to police. The killings were targeted and there is little risk to the public at this time, so they're asking people not to panic.
Is there a killer on the loose? Yes, we're searching for a suspect right now, but like I say, this isn't random. We're quite certain of that.
Alain Landry lives just down the road from the crime scene.
Somebody texted me, asked me if I was okay. And they were telling me that's close by my place, and pretty alarmed.
The two killings have shaken some people here, but Landry says it's not a shock to him.
Not utterly surprised, no. There have been some shenanigans around here, and I've seen it over the last 2 years or so. I guess local law enforcements are doing whatever they can to clean it up.
Jeff Keel, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The province-wide wildfire state of emergency in Manitoba has been lifted. It was first put into effect on May 28th when Premier Wabkanu called for a mass evacuation up north. Officials say recent rains have improved wildfire conditions across most of the province. As of Monday, there are 25 wildfires still burning in Manitoba. There has been a total of 131 wildfires in the province to date, just under the annual average of 132. More than 900,000 hectares of land has been burnt. Around 9,000 registered evacuees have returned home in the past week. Approximately 13,000 Manitobans from 12 communities are still evacuated. The city of Flin Flon is planning to welcome its almost 6,000 residents back on Wednesday. Despite some good news, officials warn the situation is still serious.
Although people have gone home and their communities are considered safe for them to occupy at this time, people can still expect to see smoke and active flames at times as they're, going about their days in their communities. And so, we are getting a lot of calls from folks that are concerned that they're still seeing active fire, and that is okay. These are very large fires. We do have staff on the ground who are responding to any potential issues or risks to the community.
In the past 10 months, police in Saskatoon and Winnipeg have found remains of missing Indigenous women in landfills. Now a Regina woman wants the Regina Police Service to do the same in hopes of finding her daughter, Rochelle Bear. As CTV's Sarah D'Souza Butts tells us, she is currently on a hunger strike until the city of Regina agrees to do a search.
Years after her passing, Rochelle Bear's memory lives on through her family.
She was a beautiful daughter, always had a kind heart. No matter what she was going through, she'd always help you. She always had a smile on her face.
But without being able to properly bury her daughter, Bear says she continues to suffer in grief.
I've lived like this for 12 years now. Not having my daughter. My daughter has a place in her traditional burial ground amongst her people.
In hopes of finding her daughter's remains, Bear is renewing her call for the city of Regina to conduct a search of the city landfill. After being reported missing in August 2013, police later determined Rochelle Bear was the victim of a homicide. Clayton Eckler would plead guilty to second-degree murder in connection with Rochelle's death, also admitting to killing 21-year-old Kelly Goforth, who went missing in the same month as Rochelle. Although Goforth's body was found, Bear's daughter has never been found.
Everyone deserves the respect of a proper burial, especially our First Nations people. And when they tell me my daughter's in here, I cry every time. I used to come by here, I used to cry all the time. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait until they come and they settle with me.
When asked for comment, the city of Regina referred the case to the Regina Police Service, who said in a statement to CTV News they have no evidence that would confirm the location of her remains. Going on to say, police continue to follow all leads and information that may help us locate Rochelle Bear, who remains the subject of a long-term missing person investigation.
I'm just going to stay out here as long as it takes.
Police officers and a victim services worker met with Bear at the landfill Tuesday, ensuring she's safe. Police have a long-standing relationship with Bear and say they'll be keeping lines of communication open with her. Sarah D'Souza Butts, CTV News, Regina.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, you can go to aptnnews.ca. And you can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. A new First Nations mural was recently unveiled at the University of Waterloo. That story when we come back. Welcome back. A new First Nation mural was recently unveiled at the University of Waterloo's Dana Portier Library last Friday. Organizers say the mural is part of the university library's decolonization efforts. The artist grew up in the region of Waterloo and says it's important to have this kind of artwork available for the public to see, and that the animals mixed with people in the mural represent a connection to the land and the teachings that come from it.
Us as Indigenous people and our connection to the land and how our culture is deeply rooted into that. And I think it's really great to have this artwork up here in public. I think that Indigenous representation really matters, and whether it's non-Indigenous people coming through here and just wondering what it's all about, or Indigenous people who would find it very meaningful to feel represented in spaces like this.
Kennedy says the mural took about 2 to 3 months to complete. Nowadays, it would seem that Indigenous identity fraud is more common than ever. APTN News recently spoke to Indigenous professionals with the Sakoway Festival and Urban Shaman Gallery to hear their thoughts on the matter. And as APTN's Veronica Blackhawk reports for her final segment of Face Value, we learn more about some of the challenges these organizations have in uplifting Indigenous voices.
Lift 'em up with spirit. I wish I knew the songs. Let them guide so they hear it.
Wyatt C. Lewis performs in a video that will prove to music festivals across Canada that they're worth booking. Behind the scenes is Alan Grey Eyes, director of the Sakoway Festival and chair at the Indigenous Music Office. He helps Indigenous artists like Wyatt get a start in these spaces.
It's really important for those festivals to present as many Indigenous people as possible. I believe every stage gives us an opportunity to challenge stereotypes, the challenges that Indigenous organizations face in general. And that's, we're competing with other organizations that have multiple years head start.
Experts agree that Canada's colonial history plays a big role.
The last residential school didn't close until 1996, which puts us at a distinct disadvantage, another disadvantage, because our parents didn't launch nonprofit organizations. They didn't launch festivals.
Working in the Indigenous arts funding sector at Urban Shaman Gallery, Justin Berlavi has seen his share of fraudulent Indigenous grant applicants getting approved for millions of dollars. He was part of a panel hosted by the Indigenous Curatorial Collective to analyze their identity policies.
We don't want to be like pretending police and like looking over our shoulders all the time and interrogating people who are our colleagues. So like rather than focusing on like the individual as being, someone who's malicious or like a bad actor and trying to police at an individual level, looking at like our systems and structures.
When it comes to accessing federal and provincial funding for Indigenous artists, Justin says that most policies are still rooted in white supremacy.
What that creates is this relationship where we're modeling our behavior at our organizations, so our culture, to match the demands of government. And the people who are uplifted are the ones that have those set of skills, which often is in proximity to whiteness.
Alan and Justin suggest a holistic approach.
We need to work towards like kind of dismantling that and being more open as organizations.
And each community is going to have a different process. And what we're currently embarking on is consultations with Indigenous knowledge keepers, elders and grandmothers across the country in different communities and nations. And so the goal is to have a database that we can use to make phone calls and just do some back checking.
Indigenous identity fraud is a nationwide issue. Alan says other musicians can play a part in keeping things level by being mindful about sharing their platforms with up-and-coming artists.
I would recommend that if you're an artist that has developed a team, you have resources, maybe leave those spaces for new and emerging voices so we can hear an even broader, wider perspective from the Indigenous community.
As for now, the discussion of identity is a work in progress.
What we learned is overwhelmingly the music festivals wanted to rely on our artist directory on our website to identify people as Indigenous, to identify artists that they could book for their festivals.
And I think a lot of artist front centers are all in the same boat. Like, none of us have finished our identity policy yet.
So just be patient, and I think listening is also way more important than having an opinion on everything that's happening.
Indigenous music and arts professionals say they want real change. Their stories, a reflection for all of Turtle Island to learn from.
We always had good faith for artists. Like, we just took them at face value. We would have conversations, understand their communities, but it's not until now that we're realizing that the situation is really complex.
There's no time like the present for us to recognize just how complex identity is.
If you're lying, people will find out. If you're reconnecting and you really don't know, then say you don't know. And be honest about where that disconnect lies and what it entails, and you'll have support from the community.
Just recognizing that people are people, we're not perfect, we all make mistakes, but there's always, an opportunity to make things right.
Indigenous people hold real and valid pain surrounding false identity claims. While that hurt won't disappear overnight, we can approach that pain together and find a healthier way forward. Thanks for sticking around for Face Value. I'm Veronica Blackhawk, APTN National News.
And Veronica Blackhawk will join us in studio a little later in the show to talk about her time with APTN National News. Make sure to stick around. We now want to tell you about the results from last week's web poll questions. Over on our website last week we asked, are you prepared to evacuate your home in case of an emergency? 51% of you answered not at all, 33% said yes, somewhat, and 16% said yes, very prepared. We want to know, do you believe the G7 considers Indigenous rights in its decisions on climate, trade, and security? Big majority answered no, with 17% choosing not sure and 15% answering yes. And our last question was a pop quiz. What year did Idle No More begin? 31 respondents got it correct, the answer being 2012. Thank you to everyone that took the time to answer for this week's web poll questions. Visit aptnnews.ca for our next round of questions this week. Veronica Blackhawk and Angela Bello joins us next to talk about the opportunities they got here at APTN National News. We'll be right back in less than 3 minutes. Stay with us. A big hi thank you for staying with us. St. John's 14, Charlottetown 24. 11 in Cartwright, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, showers and 10. Saguenay, sunny and 23, Quebec City 28. Peterborough 30, Sarnia 31 and sun. 12 in Wawa, Sudbury 24. 11 in The Paw, Norway House 10. 13 in Gimli, showers in Barons River at 7. Saskatoon, partly cloudy and 10, Regina 11. 12 in La Ronge and sun, Meadow Lake 11 and partly cloudy. 23 in Grand Prairie, Fort McMurray 23. 25 in Lethbridge and showers, Medicine Hat sunny and 26. Vancouver 22, Bella Coola 20. Fort Nelson 23, Smithers 20 and rain. Rain in Watson Lake at 21, Mayo 20. 19 in Yellowknife, Wrigley 23. 23 in Colville Lake, Fort McPherson 26. 19 in Chesterfield, Whale Cove 14. And in Iqaluit 6, Igloolik 11 and sun. This week marks the finish line for two young aspiring journalists that APTN News has had with us for the past 6 months through a partnership with Journalism for Human Rights and the Indigenous Journalists Association. Here at headquarters in Winnipeg is Veronica Blackhawk, who joined the newsroom helping contribute to our daily news programs. And in our Montreal bureau, Angela Bello spent time working alongside Tom Fenario with APTN Investigates. They join us now to talk about their fellowship. Veronica and Angela, thank you both for being here. Veronica, we'll start with you. You filed more than 15 stories over your time at APTN National News. How was your experience?
It's been so nice being able to learn from such a supportive team, especially people who equally care about Indigenous issues just as much. And yeah, it's really been a great experience.
And Angela, you did an hour-long APTN Investigates piece. What was that like for you?
Challenging, definitely, but exciting too. I learned so much, and I had a great team of people supporting me throughout the whole process. I mean, investigative journalism isn't easy, so having people who have the experience with the research and the interviewing and the filming and all of it combined, putting it together, it really changed the way that I saw journalism and the news and sort of my future as well. Yeah.
And Veronica, your final project, you did a 5-part series called Face Value on Indigenous identity, lineage, and kinship. It aired last week, the last segment actually. It really follows the conversation after the fallout from the reporting of Buffy St. Marie's identity. As a musician yourself, talk about the importance of having this conversation.
It was really mind-opening to be in those spaces with those professionals and just kind of confirm all of the things that are impacting us as a community. One of the biggest takeaways too is, like, me being a musician, of course I work with Indigenous people, but I also work with tons of non-Indigenous industry folks. And so a lot of those issues are hard to gauge for the entire community. But from what I've learned is that all of my non-Indigenous allies have been able to take away something from that, and they're using it as like an educational resource. So that means so much to me, being able to have that for everybody.
Definitely a topic that's close to your heart. And Angela, investigative journalism can be a long road. Is there any advice you can give to others who are thinking about wanting to take on more in-depth stories?
The first thing that comes to mind is have a good system for putting all your information in a place that's easy to go back to and refer back to, because sometimes you get lost in the thick of the story and talking to people that certain things go amiss. And so being able to have something like a database or like a good filing system for all the files is probably one of the best advice I can give to people, and not be afraid to ask the hard questions too.
And Veronica, what's next for you in your career? You know, you just had a real fun run here with all these stories you got to do. What's next?
I'll be hanging out in Yellowknife for Folk on the Rocks Music Festival, along with Calgary Folk Music Festival for my band Tinge. We're hitting the road shortly after this internship is done, so I'm really excited to go be doing more music.
Right on, that sounds like fun. And Angela, what's next for you? And do you have any advice to those wanting to apply for the fellowship?
Oh my gosh. Next for me, I'm kind of unsure, but I did apply to a journalism program, so I'm looking forward to September to see what that brings. And for advice for anybody wanting to participate in the fellowship, take a chance, especially here in Montreal. I know that in Quebec, there's a lot of French-speaking Indigenous people who might not feel that their stories matter or their voices are important. So I would just say, even those people who have a different language, like, take a chance, apply, see what opportunities come.
Right on, definitely strong words of advice there. Veronica and Angela, thank you so much for being here. We wish you all the best on your futures ahead, and thank you for all of your great and strong journalism while being with us. We really appreciate it.
It was an honor.
Yeah, thank you, Creason.
And that's our noon show for this Tuesday. Dennis Ward is back in a few hours for your evening newscast. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Ekse.